Welcome to Season 3 of the Knack for Business podcast. Over 400 plus episodes strong, we're here to ignite your entrepreneurial spirit with fresh insights, networking gems, and creative strategies that elevate your game.
From the audience perspective, what if the reason you're always stuck or chasing results is because you've been ignoring what your body is really trying to tell you? And that's exactly what our guest, Lisa, will be talking about today. How trusting your body's wisdom can unlock sustainable health, energy, and clarity in your business life. Our guest today is Lisa Godin from Brilliantly Balanced. Lisa is a no-fluff health and wellness coach who helps women break free from diet rules, calorie counting, and guilt to finally feel free in their bodies. Living with type 1 diabetes and with a background as a teacher and coach, Lisa once believed that controlling the numbers meant controlling her health. A serious car accident forced her to listen to what her body had been trying to tell her all along. That life-changing moment led her to create the Strong Method, a unique approach that blends real-life experience, deep empathy, and just the right amount of sass. Today, Lisa empowers women to stop outsourcing their wellness and instead tune into their own inner wisdom for lasting and sustainable change. Lisa, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here today. Welcome, and do you have your favorite quote or saying you'd like to share with us?
Well, I've always end everything with love and support, always. It's what I always say to everybody because ultimately that's what we all want is love and support, regardless of where we are, what we're doing, or where we want to go. We need that more than ever. So that's a kind of a favorite quote of mine, and I end everything with it.
So why don't you unpack strong for us, Lisa?
Sure. Strong is my acronym for the process I work clients through. So we start with yes, see it. So we need to get honest. I think in a world where we live today, like in this world, we see perfection, and we have to get honest about where we are and where we sit right now, because I think a lot of us sort of have this or misbeliefs about what is actually going on. Then I move into, this is where we really start to sit with ourselves, sit with our bodies, start to trust it, start asking questions to move into that sort of trust phase. It's not overnight, and it takes some people a very short amount of time. Some people, it takes a little bit longer. Then we start rewriting. That's the R, the rewrite. Most of us have been hanging on to some really old misbeliefs about who we are. And by this moving in, we're going to rewrite what we now want based on who we are. Because let's face it, we changed throughout our entire lives. Who are we right now? Let's rewrite that. Then I move into the own it. You know who you are. Own this. Own that you are the expert of your own body, your own mind, and where you want to go. Then the N, we work on nourishing this. How can we feed this? How can we tweak it? How can we really lean into who we are, what we want? And then it doesn't always have to be the same. We change, we're humans. So we're going to nourish this part of ourselves, ebb and flow with it, and grow it. We're going to keep going, keep being consistent with it. And if we need to go right back to trusting ourselves again, we can. It's really about encompassing all of it in one big package so that we can ebb and flow through our lives.
When you speak of listening to your body, sometimes some of us are tone deaf to our body, and you only realize you should have grabbed that bite to eat it or the proverbial chocolate bar, as the commercials suggest. How do you stay in tune before you find out the hard way? Before your body says you're going to be a grumpy old soul and no one will want to be near you, or better yet, you're going, "Hey, you did this when I was 20 years old. What happened?" You look down at your body, it's in a new shape.
Oh, for sure. In 2025, it looks very different from 1995. I also believe we get these whispers, but we've probably heard so many podcasts and shows talk about these whispers, and we just throw them off. In 2025, let's be real. Somebody is telling us what to do, when to do it. The Snickers bar is telling you you're hungry, not your body. We need to turn that off and really listen and sit. If I'm hungry, why don't I want to eat? Because Google says I shouldn't eat, or my body is going to do that. Learning to turn off the cell phone and just say, listen, I'm feeling a little bit hungry right now, for example. Am I hungry? Am I bored? Is it immediate? I think that these little whispers are there, and whether or not we stop, listen, accept, and then attend that need, because in today's world, this is really a deep dive into getting to know your body. Today with the cell phone, this thing is telling us what to do, when to do it. Some of us have dialed in our whole day, but how many of us stop and actually listen to our body saying, hello, I'm hungry, I need to eat. And yes, when's the last time you felt something and stopped without saying, hey, do I need to eat? Do I need to rest? How many of us have been like, I'm exhausted, but it's only 8 o'clock, so I can't go to bed yet. Instead of actually tuning into our body. We live in a society where we're constantly told what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. Very little of the time do we actually listen to what we need. I went to bed at 7 o'clock last night.
I have a question for you, Aaron. The only reason I mention this, there are times your body's telling you, whether it's physical sensation or maybe it's a bit of psychological, and
Yeah.
I think I'm hungry type thing. It's the no pain, no gain. And so, or you're doing fasting, right? And not so much to focus on that. There's some people say, listen, if you're hungry, just go a bit longer, like a stretch goal. How do you discern between something that has a margin where you can stretch it? It's probably good for our health, but you don't want to fast for a whole month because you might not make it through the whole month. But if you're fasting to lose weight or following a prescribed cultural item, how do you balance it out between doing that and listening to your body?
Well, I have a lot to say about this because none of my clients to tell me what their body is asking for. And some of them, their bodies are saying, I want to fast. And I say, okay, how can we make that work in a sustainable way for you? I tried to do Ramadan myself. It was not sustainable for me as a diabetic. That's why diabetics don't do Ramadan. If you are getting to psychological signs of too long of a fast and other things are starting to fall apart in your life, I've seen people do 21-day fasts and things start to fall apart. And you have to ask, is this worth that happening to you? Some people, I can't even do 2 days of a fast. 21 days of water only.
What do they do for a living?
This person was a teacher and they wanted to push. I don't have an issue with people pushing themselves, but is that going to be sustainable? A fast 1 day a week is sustainable for a lot of people. And I have qualms about that. But when you start noticing other things happening because it is no longer sustainable, that's where we maybe pivot. Can we fast differently? Can the time be different? Can the days be different? And that's really where you have to get over the all or nothing attitude and be like, okay, right now I'm in this sort of period of my life and I just don't have the energy for that. If I look at somebody running a business, for example, if you are a coach like myself, summer is a dead time for most of us. People don't want to work out. People don't care about their diet. They want to have a good time. So this is a quiet time for me. And this is where fasting could probably be manageable for me if I chose to do that. But then there are those other crazy times as a coach, before summer is a good one because people want to be summer ready. This period is much busier for me. Learning to listen to the body, the schedule, the lifestyle in those times, because you need energy and food gives you that. Anything is manageable. You can get a better body with any diet. The problem is that it's not sustainable. Fasting can work for periods of our lives, but it doesn't mean it works for every single day. Being a vegan doesn't work for everybody. I was watching videos, and it is a program that takes place over 75 days. everybody at the end of it is like a month and a half later and they look the same as they did before because it's hard to sustain that. It's great for a period of time, but what happens after that period of time? What I do is what is sustainable for you all the time? What does your everyday life look like? How many work meetings do you have? How many business lunches? How many weekends are you away? It's that lifestyle and being consistent with it and still get the results you want. I think that's the goal. We want to be nice and healthy and fit, but are you only going to do it for 3 months? If you can't do that forever, what's the point? I'm looking for long term. What can I do? How can I pivot when things were getting rough? How can I continuously move towards my goal? I could get into GLP-1s and why they're successful today. It's quick. The side effects are incredibly tough, and some people will suffer through that. In my experience and working with people who have been on it, it is very difficult to get off of it. Even if you continue to eat the same things, it is not just about suppressing appetite. It's also about working with digestion. There's a whole plethora of things it's doing, hence why it was meant for type 2 diabetics. But they will have to stay on this long term, and there's a lot of lifestyle change that has to come with GLP-1. I could go in on to a whole hour about GLP-1 because I am a diabetic, and now they are also recommending it for type 1 diabetics. There's a reason why it's on the market. However, more information about the lifestyle you have to have needs to be talked about so that you aren't seeing major consequences down the road.
You had a car accident that gave you an aha moment. Tell me a story.
So my whole story as a type 1 diabetic, I've been a diabetic my whole life. As a child, I was a diabetic. So listening to my body was pretty good for diabetes. Even the morning of my car accident, I remember looking in the mirror and saying to myself, something has to change. I just need to do better. Those are those little whispers where you know it's there. You just are choosing to push it off. I'm just going to get through it. And I was a mom of 2 boys. My husband was working in another city at that time. I'd taken a sabbatical from teaching for the first half of the school year. But because I have to do something with my life, I was the lead volunteer for welcoming all new type 1 diabetics to the juvenile diabetes research from Montreal and Erie. So I was a busy girl doing that. And on this particular morning, I looked in the mirror and I was like, something's got to give and I need a big change, a big shift. I got into my car. Things were good. And I went into a diabetic coma while driving my car at 100 kilometers an hour. I flipped my car end over end over 2 oncoming lanes of traffic, landed on the other side of the highway. I was conscious because I went into a coma, came out. When the paramedics arrived, I was standing there talking to them. They had thought I broke my back. My blood sugar was so low that it was below a 1. For a person without diabetes, if you're at a 4, you feel bad. You are probably sitting on the floor drinking juice at that time. So to be under a 1 was extremely low. Put me on the board, rushed me to the hospital, cut all my clothes off me, threw me in through an x-ray, a full body x-ray. Came out of it, nothing. Not one thing was wrong with me. I had no broken bone. I had a whiplash, concussion. I had a cut on my finger from my windshield smashing. And I left with a prescription for Oxycontin. And so I went home and I was relieved. This all happened within 2 hours. I went in, they x-rayed me. I came out. I was fine. He wrote me a prescription. I had to call a friend to bring me clothes I couldn't leave. It was just a sheet. Eventually, the endocrinologist came in and said, we need to switch your medication. So, and asked me to stay in the hospitals to do that. I said yes. I ended up staying and having to have an MRI because I could not move. I left with my prescription to Oxy. I did not want to take them. I could host my own intervention in my living room. I watched enough A&E intervention. I could do my own. And so I did not think that this would be a good mix for me personally. About a month and a half later, I was still in a lot of pain from this car accident. Still had some bruising left over from my seatbelt because none of my airbags had gotten hot. So my seatbelt's what pinned me. And I laid on my living room floor and got comfortable. I laid there in silence and breathed, said out loud, what do I need to heal my body? I was good with the diabetes and I'm looking at the numbers, but I had never asked outside of that. And I did on this day, I would have this shiver go through me. And it was like, you got to get up, Lisa. You got to start moving this body. You got to start doing better. The next day, I went to the grocery store with my husband and I'm like, I'm going to start exercising. And my husband thought it was crazy because he's like, you are hobbling around the grocery store like a 90-year-old woman. How do you think you are ever going to get to the gym and start moving again? And I said, I don't know, but my body is telling me that's what I need to do to feel better. When I came out of that grocery store, there was a card on my windshield for Zumba. The only problem is she didn't speak French, and I lived in a predominantly, like 3%, spoke other language, city in Quebec. And I said, this is the sign. That night, I went to her house. I signed up for her class. And a week later, I started Zumba with her twice a week for 45 minutes. Once you start one thing, we talk about motivation all the time. Motivation does not equal action and result. You need action to get the results, which gives you the motivation to keep on going. And that's exactly what I did. I did not feel good. I hated it most days. I tried to convince myself I did not need to go to this class, but I just continuously showed up regardless. And 4 months later, I had lost 25 pounds. I was eating completely differently. I just started changing the way I ate. I started adding more vegetables, more fruit, more whole grains rather than the chicken nuggets that I was eating off my kid's plate. Little by little, all of these things sort of fell into place. And I think it's because I just kept showing up. There was a community of people there to support me. And I started seeing huge results. Had I not laid on that floor that night and said, what is it that I need? I don't know if I ever would have actually went, okay, I got to listen now. Or if I just would have continuously moved through my life, as it were. This was such a key moment in my story because it changed my life. Today, working out, eating well, and listening to my body, I still lay on the floor. When I'm going through something, I lay there and just sit, what is it that I need? Sometimes I don't like the answer. We expect to always love the answer that comes to us. I don't always love the answer, but I know that's the direction I need to move in. It's why I don't have I just don't want to be bombarded all the time with all these new shiny things because we all have our own answers. We just are shutting it down and letting all this exterior stuff come in rather than going inwards first and then doing the research on what our bodies are telling us, right? So yeah, that's my car accident story. It's a pretty incredible story. I think it goes to show us that we're all here for a reason. I've told this story many times and people always have something like, yeah, something happened to me. I had to listen and I'm going to start doing that too because I think my body is trying to tell me things and I'm shutting it out. That story just doesn't affect type 1 diabetics or people who've had a car accident or made big changes. We can all relate to that moment of something being told to us and choose to hear it or not. So, yeah, that's my car accident story. Yeah.
Based on what you've described, and by the way, great rebound story. It's great, from whence this came. The next part of it, though, sometimes when we do things, and much the same reason you didn't pick the OxyContin, right, as a cure path, or and not even, it's not a cure, it's a mitigator.
Exactly.
But sometimes when we're doing something, let's say that shiny object, oh, look, there's a new diet out there. I could use that, eh? And off you go. And next thing you know, Wayne's looking back at me going, Bernie, what's wrong with you? Your eyes are crossed. But sometimes we go on the journey and maybe it works for a while, right? We'll get a little dopamine hit. You mentioned something earlier about sustainability. So when do you know, okay, I'm doing something that's the right thing, but it won't be a permanent thing? So how do you figure that out? Let's say it's exercise. You start exercising and you get to a plateau, and now you don't have to do the same intensity that it took to get you there. When do you shift gears? It's like wearing a cast, for a broken leg. You don't keep wearing the cast the rest of your life. You get rid of it.
When you level up, that's kind of what you're asking, right? How do we know when to level up? Within
level up, but what are the indicators going, this had its time and its place? Like if you're 16 years old and you're a guy, that red sports car is really good. When you're a dad at age 30, you need a van or an SUV or something if you have kids and stuff.
I always say when it doesn't serve you anymore. If you have a sports car and now you got to move on, you move to the minivan because the car is not serving you anymore. I think that exercise is super important. But if you are doing CrossFit and then decide that CrossFit no longer is for you, okay, we try something else. I think that in terms of health, it has to be something that is manageable and kind of fun. Also, you have to kind of enjoy it. Trust me, nobody wants to eat celery every day for the rest of their lives. Nobody. If it is no longer serving you, you are even struggling. However, I also think that people give up too soon. I've been doing this for a month, and now I can do some drops and get rid of my cortisol belly. 5 drops of anything.
That drops, get rid of that bit of a bumper.
That's what I see, because we want it to be easy, and it's not going to be easy. It has to sort of become a habit. But in terms of what we're doing, there's no reason to not switch things up. But to go from shiny thing to shiny thing, this is something that happens to a lot of my clients. I have them coming to me with new things all the time. I work with a large array of types of people, from diabetics to perimenopausal women. And they're like, Lisa, I read about this. This worked for me. And I always say, let's do what we're doing for a while. Let's see if that works. Let's play within that. Because do you want to be doing 5 drops? No. You can't drop 50 pounds and then go back to your previous lifestyle. You cannot do that. You cannot take a certain medication or whatever, or eat only broccoli for 3 months. I mean, well, that's a whole other problem. Let's stick with where we are. Let's make little changes, see how it goes. If you are like, this absolutely is not working and I hate it, then we'll pivot from there. We'll try something else. However, for the record, I am not one that's like, oh, they told me to download 15 steps to 15 pounds in 15 days. I will automatically say, no, I will not support. Just putting that out there.
That sounds like surgery.
But you base the price, like people, I think as we were talking before the podcast, we are so bombarded today with information that we don't even know how to listen to what's good, what's bad. We just want somebody to tell us what to do, how to do it, where to go. And when people do this to me, I say, what are you telling you? And they're like, what do you mean? I don't doubt, but I wouldn't be here. And I said, well, let's just stop. Let's just stop. Tell me what your initial impressions are. What do you think? What do you think you need to do? If I was to ask you how to lose 10 pounds, what would you tell me without Googling it? I would tell you, you need to eat more vegetables, drink more water. These are all really sound ideas. Are you doing them?
Oh,
So you have the answer You just are not putting that into play. Let's start on the boring basics first. Nail those down. And then we'll try some fancy diet. 15 pounds, because you will be unhappy. It won't be sustainable. And we're just going to move right back to the stuff that is sustainable for you. Because it comes down to the basic, boring stuff that none of us have time for. And we're searching for the shiny object that is going to be the cure for all. It's just not there. It's scientifically proven that if we just do the basic, boring things on repeat, no, I'm not talking about eating steamed broccoli with a side of chicken breast and quinoa. You can mix it up and eat well. There's so much out there. Look for a healthy recipe before you look for 15 pounds in 15 days. It's boring. It's not shiny. In fact, it's pretty dull, but it'll be a brilliant diamond if you learn to polish that consistently.
I'm trying to picture both Wayne and I going for the quinoa and the golden broiled broccoli.
Well, wait, you gotta weigh it out first, because you could only have so many grams of each. It's just a crazy idea, weighing food. As a diabetic, I've done it. I have to. When people are like, yeah, but I should weigh out all my food. And I said, I'm just going to tell you from an insider's perspective, as somebody who has to count carbohydrate minus the fiber and then add the fat. 37 years of doing that. I do it because my life depends on it. I have to give insulin for that. This is not a fun way to live your life, and it's hard. I spend half of my time guesstimating because I refuse to pull out a kitchen scale to weigh grapes. I guesstimate, and I'm very good at portion control because as a kid, my mom carried around measuring cups to measure all my food out to give me insulin. So I understand that. But is that how you want your life to be? And who's going to measure for you in the nursing home? Because you developed all your eating habits around. It's a crazy idea for me. And like one day you have a crazy busy day and you're mentally exhausted, you're physically exhausted, you're hungry. You need to eat. Every day shouldn't always look the same. Some days are just busier and you need more nutrients for that day, like 1,000 calories more, but it's a crazy concept to me. And I am constantly trolling people.
My problem is every time I eat a Snickers bar, I turn into Betty White.
Tell you, that's a different story. That's a whole new podcast right there.
Oh,
Facial changes.
Transformational. You know what? I love chocolate too. And I also eat chocolate as a type 1 diabetic. It's shocking. My clients this too, when you want to remove all of these things, I mean, that's sustainable. You're never going to eat a chocolate bar again. We live in all or nothing today. We never start a diet until Monday. We're going to change our eating on Monday. So then we binge all week.
That sounds like January 1st.
I love January 1st, actually. I love that day. It's like my favorite day. My goals set like that because if you write them down, they happen. I think we need to learn how to add in and keep foods we love so that as soon as you have deprivation, people want to binge on it. It's just a fact. That's science.
So one thing that I think you have an opinion on is that sometimes put their eating health on the side and do a terrible job. Tell me about being an entrepreneur who's trying to make sure or she's eating well.
I think this is not just for entrepreneurs. I think it's for all people in a career path for sure. I've been in both. I'm an entrepreneur and I've been a teacher. We put everything to the side because this is more important right now. It has to be I schedule when I was a teacher. If it's in the schedule, then it's getting done. As an entrepreneur, we wouldn't be like, I just don't have the energy to go to that networking event today. I'm just not up for that. I'm tired. Yeah, but you push through that. On my Google Calendar, my workouts are in my day already. I go to classes because I love community. I think community is probably one of the biggest drivers of them all. I choose the classes I want to go to. If I don't go, it costs me $15. I want to pay $15. So I sign up for my classes, block out my calendar for that, and then I go. I wouldn't miss a meeting with a potential client. I wouldn't miss a client meeting. I wouldn't miss my group coaching calls. So I'm not going to miss my workouts. I think there's a lot to be said about simplicity. We think health has to be complicated, and it does not. Entrepreneurs are really good at doing things on repeat. This is how you build a business. You do things over, you're constantly building more people, more podcasts, more blogs, more posts, more connections. You have to do the same thing with your health. I take a Sunday, as a teacher, I did this, as an entrepreneur, I do this. Grocery shopping's on one day, food prep is on another day. Some people will cringe when I say it, but I eat the same thing every day for a whole week. And then I switch it up the week after and prepare it all in one day because I don't want to think about it. I just don't want to think about it. If I'm busy and I have back-to-back clients, I don't want to have to stand in front of the refrigerator door going, what am I going to eat? It's there. I just prepare it all up. It takes me about an hour and a half on a Sunday. Once the groceries are bought, I stick to the same. Some people are going to be like, oh, girl, 5 recipes. Those are my go-tos that I can make like this. It's easy. I enjoy them. Tacos are one, for example. And you can do all kinds of different tacos. And I just do that on repeat. If you are an entrepreneur and you are starting a business and your health is important to you, buy the broccoli pre-cut. Nobody wants to chop broccoli up. Buy it, poke some holes in the bag, rinse. I chop all vegetables up beforehand for salad. I make a whole salad for a whole week. It takes me an hour and a half and it's done. I don't have to think about it because you've got to build a business. If you're building a business and you really care about your health, that food prep on Saturday or Sunday or Monday or Thursday, it's a game changer. Gotta be easy.
So we're on Zoom right now, and Zoom opens us to the world. I understand you're in Toronto. Where's the geography you like to work the most in, and how do we reach you?
So my ideal clients are women like me. They are in that late 30s to maybe even early 60s. The kids are older. You got a little extra time. Things aren't so crazy like running around with little ones. A lot of the people I work with are in this perimenopausal and trying to figure it out because there are physical things happening, but there are also a lot of psychological things happening for a woman in this time, from being a mother and having kids to take care of. Your job as a wife, your career is already built, and now they're turning inwards and looking at how best they can improve themselves and what they now want for themselves, that they have a little bit more time. People who want to reach out to me can email at hello@brilliantlybalanced.ca. You can go to my website, www.brilliantlybalanced.ca. You can find me on Instagram under Brilliantly Balanced. You can find me on Facebook and on LinkedIn. So there's many ways to reach out, and I'm always answering questions for people. We see all this information out there, but we would also be surprised at how many women and men, don't want to necessarily buy into that big shiny thing because they've probably tried it 100 different ways and it's led them right back to where they are today. However, they will go there if they need to. I answer all kinds of questions, from what to eat, looking at calories, which I don't really love to do. But if somebody is really looking for that, like, what can I do today, Lisa? How can I learn to tune into this body today? Like right now, I walk all my clients through an activity, and it's the exact same one that I did for myself, which is to find yourself a nice quiet space with a open floor. Lay down, get comfortable, feel supported, breathe, take a second. And when you're calm, really ask yourself out loud, what is it that I'm looking for? What is it that I need at this time? And move towards that. Really lean into it. It might not be what you want to hear, but really lean into that. Anybody who I have got to do this exercise, they've all said the same thing to me. It's been whispering to me for a long time. Doing this activity has just brought it right up to the surface. That's exactly where I would start. Stop looking for the shiny thing. Just do the basic, boring things. Eat whole foods as possible. Take a walk outside. Go to bed. We're all tired. That's what I would say.
I want to say thank you to Lisa Godin, my co-host Wayne Pratt, and you, the Knack for Business listeners. Lisa's shared a story of going through a serious car accident, which helped her develop the STRONG method, which supports, she covered a couple of salient points there. Things are changing. We go through it in our teens, and later on we go through it at the other end of the spectrum. Reach out to Lisa if you're feeling that shiny object syndrome has been an issue, but you're not having any success or it's not being sustainable. Lisa's the person to help you work through that.
To reach the podcast hosts, email them at info@creativeinsight.com or by the website creativeinsight.com, spelled KRVINSIGHT.com. To reach Wayne at his email, wayne@motive8u.ca, that is MOTIVE, the numeral 8 and the letter u.ca, or his website, motive8u.ca. If you would like to be a guest on this podcast and share your knowledge, let us know. We would also appreciate your feedback on the content or format. Check the show notes for more details. For these podcasts, we like to acknowledge the support and thanks to the following people. Carl Richards from Podcast Solutions Made Simple, a renowned podcast expert. Fred Crouch, who is the Property Wizard podcaster, where Bernie is a co-host. Jovan Strika from At Hive, a co-working space that is more than just a space. Then Melanie Weber, Bernie's invaluable business partner. And Wayne Pratt from Motive 8U Inc., who serves as both a coach and co-host of these podcasts. Disclaimer, please note that the Knack for Business podcast episodes are meant solely for educational and general informational purposes. The information and opinions contained within are not intended to be professional advice on any subject matter. The thoughts, views, and opinions expressed by the participants are their own personal beliefs and do not represent the views of the podcast hosts or any affiliated organizations. It is important to note that this podcast is not a replacement for consulting with certified experts in your area who possess knowledge of your unique situation. The hosts of the podcast, along with any participants or affiliated groups, do not take responsibility for any actions taken or not taken based on the information presented in this episode. It is highly recommended that individuals seek guidance from their own personal advisors in fields such as accounting, law, or other pertinent areas prior to undertaking any actions or making decisions that may impact their financial, legal, or other aspects of life.